What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Duran, and we're here to talk more Celtics basketball. And I've decided to make this video because this is a question that has now become an even bigger question as we move along further into the season. Who should start at the point guard position when the team, becomes more healthy, when it's fully healthy, when we get Rob Williams back, when we get Jaylen Brown back? And I think that game will be Monday against Houston. Who should be the starting point guard moving forward for this team? Should it be Marcus or should it be Dennis? And when I think about it, I don't think it's as easy as an answer for, certain people as it is for others. Dennis Schröder, obviously a better scorer than Marcus Smart. In my opinion, I would want Dennis to start. And I get the turnovers are a concern. I get that sometimes he may play above his role. But in my opinion, I love the way Dennis plays. I love that he's always attacking. I love that he's always up tempo. I think when you bring Rob Williams back into the fold, when you bring Jaylen Brown back into the fold, it'll start to kind of rein him in a little bit, so you don't have those moments where he's playing as if he's the best player on the floor, where he's driving without a cause, really, where he's had these late possession turnovers. I think you mitigate those when you add more of the core pieces, so he doesn't touch the ball as much as you would think when he plays more like a two guard, in my opinion. And that's not to take anything away from Dennis Schröder as a playmaker. I think he's fine. I wouldn't call him great, but he's played more like a two guard. He's been a scorer. He's been more attacking. He hasn't been looking as much as to set others up. And I think that's the thing that separates him from Marcus Smart, as opposed, because Marcus Smart has become more of a playmaker this year, albeit I don't think he's that good of a playmaker. He's better than Dennis. And that's the whole point. Marcus has also kind of reined it in a little bit, but at the same time hasn't been efficient. We thought if he shot less, then he would become a more efficient player, and that's not necessarily been true this year, as his shooting percentages are just they're okay. I think he's at 44%. Let me check. Let me see where he's at, actually, because I think that's Dennis. Dennis is at 40. Marcus is at 37%, actually. So that's lower than last year. I mean, where is he at 3-point percentage wise? He had 29%. He's on 26% for the season. He's a 31% shooter. I mean, this year it's just bad. It's been bad. The percentages, the efficiency is not there. But at the same time, you see these glimpses of Marcus where you get a good perimeter defender. You get a player that can set up and make others around him better. I don't know that Dennis necessarily makes others around him better, but in my opinion, I'm not really asking that much of him to do those things. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can do that. I think Al Horford is a really good player that does that. I think Al Horford is a glue piece. I'm not looking for Dennis Schröder to be a glue piece. I already knew he wasn't doing that. So for me to have these expectations for a player that I didn't expect in the first place and try to use it as a negative, I can't really say much towards that. But now let's just look at the pros and cons in general. What are the pros and cons when you're picking who should start on this team? For Dennis, you talk about an up-tempo pace. You get a better score. You get a player that's going to attack the rim almost every single possession. You get a guy that puts defensive pressure on the ball. And then you go to Marcus, you get a really good playmaker. You get a guy who's familiar with the guys around him. He has good chemistry with Tatum and Brown. They have a really good winning percentage together when they're on the floor. And then you have a guy who's also a good defender. You have a guy who also is a good playmaker. I think I already said that. But again, who kind of tips the scale for you? Who maximizes this team? In my opinion, I think it's Dennis Schröder. I think Dennis Schröder maximizes this team. I think having another scorer on the floor with Tatum and Brown takes more pressure off of those guys. Of course, Dennis can get a little too ambitious, but I think having Jaylen Brown there, bringing back a Rob Williams, bringing back core pieces will rein him in a little bit, where you'll get a better synergy for his attacking, for his mentality, kind of. Honestly, when I see him play, he reminds me a little bit of like James Harden a little bit, and a little bit of Russ, because he's always attacking. He's always attacking. He's always getting to the line. You see that, and then you see the late game turnovers, kind of like James Harden, really, where you see those turnovers where he's touched the ball too much. So of course you're gonna have that variance of turnover worthy plays. Then again, when you're looking at Marcus, you have familiarity. You have a guy who knows this team. And I don't knock people that want Marcus to start. I don't knock people that actually think Marcus is a better player. I'm just not that big of a fan. I think Marcus has to show me a little bit more of like he did in that Lakers game when he was attacking towards the rim, when he was setting guys up. If Marcus could be more of that, then I could be more comfortable saying I feel strongly about him being the starter player because, you know, I think coming to the season, we all wanted this to work. We all wanted Marcus to be a starting point guard. We all wanted him to make that jump to show us that he's a sophisticated player, that he can make guys around him better. And in my opinion, in, you know, just these 16 games, I don't think he's really done that. And I may be a little premature, but I think right now in the first half of the season, this is where you're trying to figure out who is your team. You're trying to figure out your identity. You're trying to work out what is your formula? What is your winning formula? And I think it's never too early to honestly make changes and to see what works. I honestly think you could start Dennis for a few games. Who cares how Marcus feels? Of course, Marcus is going to feel disrespected. Dennis feel disrespected coming here on the bench. He wanted to start and he said it. So I feel like I want to see a few more games of Dennis starting. I don't see what's the problem with that. I want to see a big stretch of Dennis starting at the point guard position with the full team healthy. Let's see how this works. Let's see how good this is. I know we've seen a few games. I want to see these guys catch rhythm, you know, get better chemistry with the fully healthy team with Dennis starting. Let me see how that looks, and then let me compare to how it looks to Marcus, because I've seen Marcus starting. Okay, I'm not going to say this is Marcus Smart's best stretch of basketball, by no means necessary, and that's not really fair for me to just go ahead and take this small sample size and say this is who Marcus Smart is as a starting point guard. That's not fair. But then again, I want to see every single option available. I want to see those things before we get to the second half of the season and we're trying now playing for seeding position. You're now playing for playoffs. You're now looking a little bit further ahead. This first half, let's tinker. Let's figure out what makes us the best team possible. What makes the Celtics the best team possible. I think that this is a good conversation. I think it'll be an ongoing conversation, whether this entire year, whether you decide between Smart or Dennis. And honestly, if you come to Dennis as your starting point guard moving forward, I'm not mad at that. And I know Dennis probably won't be here next year just because clearly you're not going to have a 17 point per game player on this type of contract going into that. It was played way below his market value. But then again, you look at Marcus and you have to look at those options as far as trading, because I think Marcus is still a valuable asset. If you come down to Dennis as your starting point guard, you said we're going to move forward with Dennis, I think before the deadline, you need to look at what is Marcus Smart's value? Like, what is his market value? What can you get back? Would Philly be able, I'm still stuck on Philly. What would Philly be able to give up for Ben Simmons? You know, you still have to explore those options. But coming down to it, and we're getting a little bit away from where this video is, in my opinion, I feel like Dennis Schröder should be the starting point guard. Now, what do you guys feel? Let me know in the comments. And I'm just gonna wrap this video up saying, as always, got to have nothing left for the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.